Welcome, everybody, to the Open Source Entrepreneur. We are on episode 4. Can you believe it, Jimmy? 4 episodes deep. And somehow, I don't know if we're getting better or worse, but we are having a whole heck of fun doing it.
It's been fun.
Jimmy says it's been fun, good enough for me. Jimmy and I were talking last night. This is a very challenging thing, right? Like we're in separate homes, we're doing separate things. Some people might look at us and say, "Hey, this is like asinine," right? Like what you normally see from podcasts is like a lot of very polished, a lot of very like, "Hey, if it didn't work, just go ahead and like we'll edit it out, whatever, and post." But Jimmy and I are just gonna go ahead and be idiots and like have fun doing it. So for those of you who don't know, Jimmy is a serial entrepreneur. Jimmy owns several. I always want to call them branches. Jimmy owns a counseling center, Deseret Counseling. He's been a therapist now for 75 years and counting, and does a beautiful, beautiful job. Has multiple locations, and really is just slaying it in business in general. Jimmy, are you still there? Did I lose somebody? Jimmy's gone. Oh no, this is like the worst nightmare ever. Jimmy. Who knows if it's me or Jimmy? Jimmy says he got dropped. We're going to bring him back on. There we go. We'll invite him, see what happens. It's too bad. I was saying some really cool things about him.
All right,
there he is.
There we go.
See, technical glitches. This is live. We're not making this stuff up. You can't make this stuff up. So
I was about to say this is how you know it's live, is when all of a sudden you're in the mid sentence and then just I mean, you were talking good things about me, so I don't want to stop you.
All good things. No, all I was saying is you've been a therapist now for 75 years. I think you've got like 700 locations open at this point in the ball game. But Jimmy's a serial entrepreneur. He's a stud of a man. I became drawn to Jimmy because he is one of those genuine guys. And I said, this is a guy I got to get to know. And we've just had a really cool relationship. We actually just live a couple of doors down from each other. And as we started talking about people that we know, right, the reason we got started on our journey is because we have got like a highly concentrated group of people in our area that are entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And there are so many cool stories and so many cool businesses that are operating inside of our little like ecosystem here. And I'm like, people have to know that there are other options besides like maybe just going to school. Maybe that's not right for you. Like maybe like a traditional, like, I don't know, like maybe you're a blue collar guy, or maybe you want to go and work like, I don't know, like there's a variety of things to do. But growing up, my scope was so narrow on what I could do for a living. I'm like, there's got to be something more. There's got to be a way we can talk to people. And at the end of the day, if you don't love what you're doing, you can always freaking change it. Right now, there's never been a better time to like work a side hustle, to do something different, right? I mean, you can freaking drive for Uber or Lyft. You can do DoorDash stuff, like at the bare minimum, right? But like even now with social media, everybody has a platform. Everybody has a voice. I've seen more people become salespeople over the last 30, 60, 90 days on TikTok than I've ever seen before. And I guarantee those people didn't grow up saying, I'm going to be a salesperson, right? I know when I grew up, Jimmy, I wasn't like, I'm going to be an influencer. Not that I'm not, right? Or not that I am, but like that's a viable option for people these days. If they're like, cool, I'm going to be an influencer, right? So like there's never been a better time to be like, what do I want to do, right? What do I want to do to have fun? So I freaking love it, Jimmy. I love the variety that we have.
And to go along with that too, really quick, Casey, I think that's what's amazing about what we're doing today is, with technology, we can just, like our guests, we can just get them in their office, in their home, and they can explain their story. But yeah, you don't have to go to college for 15 years. A lot of these entrepreneurs, especially today's TikTok, like the younger generations, they have millions of followers. I mean, it still takes a lot of hard work to do what they do, but they're able to get their niche and focus in on it.
Yep, for sure. And so like before we bring our guest on, whom I'm super stoked on, she is absolutely one of the smartest people that I know. She has managed, like I'll get into her bio in just a second. But one thing that I was thinking about, I don't know if you've ever heard of this book, Jimmy. I heard this book on Amazon, right? This book, and by the way, I don't have like an affiliate fee, but it's called The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. A very intriguing read, right? Like it's super quick, super fast. It's actually got some really pretty drawings. Super hard for me to read because the guy that did the drawings also like watercolored his words on there. But as I was reading part of it the other day, it got me thinking about the entrepreneur journey. And it's because it says, a quote in here says, one of our greatest freedoms is how we react to things. And I was like, oh my gosh, right? Like we have the ability to choose. We have the ability to react. And as entrepreneurs and as entrepreneurs, right, as you're looking at your business and how do we grow and what do we do, you're like constantly reacting, right? Hopefully you're proactive in some things, but you're also constantly reacting, right? And I think that's what is something that makes a really cool entrepreneur, right, or entrepreneur, is their ability to like change and shift on the fly, right? I think that's something that's really, really cool. So, like, Jimmy, you can talk on that if you want to, but what I actually want to do is pull our guest on while we're chatting
Let's
about
do.
that. She's one of my, like I said, she's one of my very favorite people. I started working, just so you guys know, I actually started working with Ellie, which that is not Ellie, but what up? That is Ellie. That's one of my favorite things ever. I'm like, let's pull Ellie on. And I'm like, nope.
That was I was like, oh, I wasn't picturing L. Okay, I was picturing someone completely different.
Ellie, that was like one of the coolest things I've ever seen. I'm like, what is going on right now?
Say hi to Chris,
Guys,
my cameraman. That is who you guys just
Hi,
saw.
Chris.
what up, Chris? Chris in the house hooking up some technology. I love it. Like, this is how you know, like I said, that this is live, because we've already dropped Jimmy once. We introduced the wrong Ellie. Like, this is
Well,
amazing. It's one of my favorite
I
things
saw
ever.
the beard, I'm like, is that my aunt?
Yeah.
I wasn't so.
You're like, wait a minute. Guys, let me brag on Ellie for just a little bit, because I had the opportunity to work with Ellie for about a year. And we haven't worked together for a hot minute, but we've stayed in contact. Ellie is absolutely one of the most genius people I've met. One of the things I admire so much about Ellie is Ellie actually she did not go the traditional route to get to where she is. And let me tell you a little bit about where she is. So Ellie has managed over $250 million four times, let's see, what does this say, Ellie? 4X many, so she's 4X many multiple $1 million companies, managed campaigns for companies like Fabletics, Potbelly Foods, PB Fit, Russell Brunson, 3D, Chris Crone, and many, many more. She specializes in advertising and branding, and is just genuinely like one of the baddest ass females like I've ever met. And so like we're super duper excited to have Ellie on. Thank you for being with us, Ellie, tonight on our massively successful podcast that we're 4 episodes into.
Hey, for the record, our followers have doubled
Double.
each week.
Double.
That's
and
amazing.
and and Ellie, you know from the get-go that like as marketers, right, we would not say like we have 31 followers. We would say we doubled inside of a week is what we would say. We 2x what we were doing, right?
2x. We would say we 2x'd it. It's amazing.
And people would all of a sudden start throwing money at us. So like it's a beautiful thing. Like we would love it. So, dude, Ellie, like so excited to have you with us. Tell us a little bit about what I love to do, and what our listeners love is when we start and just say, okay, how did you get into marketing? Because you had such a unique path into marketing. Like typically you'll think like, oh, they spent 2 or 4 or 6 or 8 years at some sort of institution. They did all the school, they did all the learning, but like your path is drastically different. How did you get into the world of marketing?
Well, first of all, on that intro, oh, I think it's, oh, sorry.
Most of it's true, Ellie.
It was a delay, but on the intro, just so you guys know, I paid Casey to say all that.
All of it.
I wanted him to say good things about me, but
all of it. Checks in the mail, right? Right?
Yeah, that's what I did. To get started, though, my journey was way different than anybody else's, but I think it's kind of a lesson in like if you truly believe and almost delusional, I want to say, you can make it anywhere that you want. But I dropped out of high school when I was 15 years old and was like, it's time to go and see the world and everything will be fine. It'll be great. And it was so hard. It was so terrible. But I met so many great people along the way who really believed in me and took chances on me. And early on in my start, I met a woman who let me work for her business and taught me everything that I know about business. She taught me how to run one, how to do finances and marketing and interact with customers and have a product that they would want. And so I really owe everything to her. And that's where I started learning marketing and business. And from there was able to just work my way up and to where I am now. But that's my story. I mean, I did go to college for a little bit to be a nurse and decided, yeah, no, thank you. So I'm thankful for all the nurses out there, but it wasn't for me. Marketing was.
So, Ellie,
go ahead, Jimmy.
I wanted to ask you really quick. You said you went to go to be a nurse. When was that switch? Kind of like, do you know what? This just isn't for me, but I want to do this.
It was really kind of a brash decision that I made, which is kind of the path of my whole life, honestly. But I turned 18 and was like, I'm going to get my GED. I need some kind of education behind me. So I woke up when I turned 18 on my 18th birthday and I went and I took the GED and I passed it. And So then I was like, college starts in January. I'm going to enroll in my local community college and do some nursing classes. And so I went and did that for a few years, but was like, no, my passion really lies in business and marketing. So that's when I made that switch after a couple of years.
Awesome.
I love it. I love that. So one of the things I preach all the time, and one thing that I love about even having a small voice on a podcast is the ability to have how like mentors can influence our life. And you had a really cool one right out the gate. Like talk to me about how important that mentor was in your life at that point in time to say like, cool, like you're 15, you dropped out of school, right? Like I like my kids for the record are like 17 and 19, and I'm like, I can't imagine them dropping out of school right now to like go follow their dreams and just travel and do whatever. So like clearly a good head on your shoulders, maybe, right? Like you're gonna go out and travel, I don't know. But like how important was it for you to get connected with the right people, and how has that helped you throughout your career to be like, cool, I can actually network and build a really cool group of people around me?
It was everything. She taught me really early on. I didn't believe in myself. She did. And she would tell me, hey, Ellie, I'm going to teach you this thing, and there's no mistake that you're going to make that we can't fix. And for the longest time, I was like, this isn't real. Like, she will actually get mad at me if I make a mistake. But she didn't. She used every mistake as a teaching point to show me, hey, this is something we did wrong, and here's how we're going to fix it and move forward. And it really made me really confident in myself and my abilities. And it taught me that it's okay to make mistakes and move forward. And that's kind of part of the journey. But I used to think like if I work really hard, as hard as I possibly can, then I'm just going to be rich. It'll be amazing. It'll be great. That's it. That's the key. And it really wasn't. Like having that community around me of people from her all the way up to when I moved to Utah from Idaho, it was the connections that I had, the friendships that I built, the other entrepreneurs who were where I wanted to be, and I was able to connect with them and learn and grow that way. That's really was the key to being a high school dropout to where I am now.
Dude, what a super boss maneuver by a freaking mentor, right? Like, yeah. I love that. There, like, if more people would adopt the thought process that there are very few things that you can do that you can't fix, right? Like, as entrepreneurs, as marketers, the faster that you make mistakes, the quicker you're going to learn, right? Yeah. And I cannot beat that into people enough. Like, I tell my team all the time, I'm like, go make a mistake, go fast, make a mistake, let's learn and let's go, right? Like, in the game of business, it is about speed, right? Mm-hmm. And like the faster you make the mistakes, the faster you learn, the faster you course correct, you will win every single time. And I just cannot beat that into people enough, I swear.
It's so true. And also some of the best ad campaigns that I've ever run was us just saying, let's just try this and see what's going to happen. And if it fails, that sucks. But if not, it's going to be really incredible. And so many great things have come from that, and businesses have been built and grown that way. So it is just, I'm going to make this mistake and learn and grow from it.
Yeah. And I 100% agree, right? Like, and don't beat yourself up about it, right? Like mistakes happen. Nobody's going to get through this unscathed, right? Whether you are like in the marketing field like we are, or whether you're doing therapy like Jimmy is, like I guarantee the first person Jimmy talked to and like counseled, it wasn't perfect, right? But like you go and you learn and you do the things, right? Like it is what it is. I'm really curious. As you got started on early in your career, right, with very little schooling, going into marketing, what was one of the biggest challenges that you faced trying to break into the industry?
I think it was gaining trust, really, because I had to go up against people who were a lot older than I was, or who had bachelor's degrees, master's degrees. They'd been doing marketing for years. I really had to just grind and say, please take a chance on me. I'll start at the bottom and work my way up. I'll prove to you that I can do this. And I did that enough times that I finally had some case studies or some experiences under my belt that people then were like, okay, we'll look past the fact that you don't have this degree and hire you on to manage these campaigns.
And I absolutely love what you just said. Like you were willing to start at the bottom and like earn their trust, work. There are so many kids coming out these days that believe as soon as they hit the job field that they deserve to be at the top, right? Like, oh, like I'm something super special, right? And it's so rare to find kids now who are like, take me on, mentor me, teach me, let me learn, right? But I'm here to tell you guys that like freaking lean on your elders in the industry. They will help you get further faster than you coming out thinking you're like the stuff and that you can do whatever, right? Like I guarantee Ellie's probably forgot more about marketing at this point in the ball game than most of us will ever learn. And so like I think that's a really, really huge nugget you just dropped, is be willing to go through the paces, right? Like it's super important.
Well, I think to go along with that, Casey, I think a lot of people, kind of like you said, is they get out of school or whatever it might be, and they want to earn the instant six figures.
Yeah.
You know, they don't realize, do you know what? Sometimes you have to scrub the toilet before you become the manager. And knowing, people can hear your story and think like, okay, she got to where she's at, but she just didn't get there just by showing up, and being a hard worker. This might be a dumb question. Like, did you find it being more challenging being a female in the fields, trying to work, being a female without a high school degree? Was that a harder challenge to start working your way up to the top?
Oh, definitely. I still will get it sometimes where there's kind of an assumption that I'm not as intelligent as my counterparts, or I'm not as capable. So that definitely has been a challenge. It's At first there were a lot of executive positions that I held where I was the only female, and there were 5, 6 other men, and it was just me. But yeah, it's definitely a lot more challenging for females, but you have to just say, I belong here and I'm supposed to be here. I'm just as intelligent as my counterparts, and I'm going to keep going whether they want me to or not. That's what I had to do.
So I want to piggyback up that, Ellie, and just ask you, like, what type of like self-talk do you have to have when you're in those situations, right? Because in all fairness, and I hate that we're still having this conversation in 2024, but there still is like some divide, right? There's still some things that happen. And there shouldn't be, right? Like we should base it off talent, we should base it off skill set, we should base it off merit. But for whatever reason, there's still some stigmas that we have to deal with, right? And I say we, but like females specifically, right? Like I don't have that problem, right? But like females have that problem right now. And it's like, what type of like reinforcement did you have to give yourself? Who did you surround yourself with so that you could feel confident enough to sit in those areas, to be in those positions, and just and really earn the trust and get the voice of the people?
Well, the very first mentor that I had was a female. So I got a lot of everything from her, and most of the people in that company were female as well. So I was able to really learn from the very start what it was supposed to look like and how to act and how to talk. But I think it's being an advertiser too, or a business owner, you have to be able to shut out the noise, whether it's positive or negative.
Yeah.
And really stand within yourself and say, I'm supposed to be here. I'm meant to do this. This is my vision. Nothing will stop me. And that's really what got me through any kind of hard time, whether it was I was not considered as smart because I was female, or a lot of times working with clients, they'll say like, you're not actually good at your job. And so you really have to learn to be like, no, I am, and I'm meant to be here. So I think it's just standing strong in what you believe in and shutting out everything else that people have to say.
So talk to me a little bit about that. Like I think in general, going into business, sometimes you have to have thick skin, right? I think in the marketing world, especially, you have to have some thick skin, right? And be like, okay, cool. Because especially from an agency perspective, you know that like you're going to put in the work, you're going to do the analytics, you're going to do all your research, you're going to launch something. If it does or doesn't work, right? Like they're going to praise you a little bit if it works, but they're going to rail on you if it doesn't work, right? And it's like, how do you develop that thick skin to stand up and be like, listen, like this is why we did it, and basically speak your truth, right? Like, is there a way that you can encourage people to build that kind of thick skinness to be successful?
I think it's trial and error, because I would be totally lying if I said at the beginning nothing ever bothered me. It was totally fine. There were days where I'd get off calls and just cry and be like, man, maybe I am the worst. I don't know. But it was
like you have some imposter syndrome.
Yeah. You have to kind of get up and brush yourself off and be like, no, I'll give myself, what I do is I have a rule where I'm like, I'll give myself 10 minutes or a day to kind of be pouty and like, I don't deserve to be here, I shouldn't have this, or whatever else. And then it's time to get back up, and it's time to get your game face on. So I think it's just trial and error, continuing to practice that skill, and then also allowing yourself the time to be like, I'm not worthy, I can't do this. But then you have that short time and you're like, okay, time to get back up and get back going.
back on that freaking horse. Jimmy, I actually want to pause on that on Ellie for a second and come to you. How do you help people through like an imposter syndrome? Because that's important. Like whether you're in marketing or like whatever other field, I think as you naturally start to climb the corporate ladder, like at different points you start to feel like an imposter, like should I be here? Like how do you overcome that?
I'm glad you asked that because I was gonna even bring that up. I think it was awesome is you notice it. You know what I mean? Because you give yourself that time out. Like, do you know what? I'm gonna take this 5, 10 minutes just to notice maybe I did suck today. You know,
Mhm.
maybe it wasn't the perfect day. You know, maybe I shouldn't be in this field. I mean, you notice those thoughts, you notice those emotions, but then that's where you recognize them, and then you're like, do you know what? Screw that. I'm gonna keep on going. Like it's that mentality, like I am gonna prove not only myself wrong, but everyone or myself, but everyone else that I'm made to do this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a learning experience too. Having that hurt, that pain, like you can't do it, do you know what? It's a horrible feeling. But once you get through that and you can fight through those emotions and you realize those emotions don't control you, you can look back at when you're succeeding and be like, do you know what? That posture, like I couldn't do it, I didn't think I could do it, are more strengths. And you're like, okay, I learned from that experience.
Yeah, totally. Ellie, I want to pivot. So, like, there's going to be some people out there that are going to be like, hey, listen, I either want to be in marketing, I might even want to have my own marketing agency, right? Explain to us what a day-to-day looks like for you in a marketing agency. One of the things that I love about the marketing side is frequently looks different day to day, right? But tell us, Ellie, what's a day-to-day look like for you in this field?
That's kind of where my superpower comes in. I have really bad ADHD, which means I have abundant amounts of energy and nowhere for it to go.
Welcome to the
But
family.
it, in the agency world, that works out really well because like Casey said, every day is different, and it's often me getting on phone calls and running from here to there and working on campaigns and talking on the phone and sending emails. So it's busy from the second that you get there to the second that you leave. So for some people, that's really, really hard. And then you have to also be able to really disconnect at the end of the day, or you'll bring your work home and continue working and you'll work yourself to the ground. So it's different each day, but that's what I really love about it.
Yeah, so let's pretend for a second, Ellie, that I come to you as a new client, right? And I'm like, okay, cool, Ellie, I need you to do some marketing for me, right? Kind of walk people through what like from a marketing perspective, you get on a new client, how do you onboard them? Like, what does it look like to say, okay, I need to like evaluate your business. We're going to start looking at like maybe a paid campaign. We're going to look at some funnels. We're going to look at branding, yada, 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 right? Like, what is all involved inside of like somebody who says, yep, I own a marketing agency, so clients coming to me, this is what we're going to do for you.
The first thing that I'm going to do is ask, what is your end goal? And then from there, I can say that's realistic or that's not realistic. And then from there, it's really looking at data. I'm a huge data nerd, so I really geek out about spreadsheets and formulas and looking through financials and making predictive models and statistics. And then coming back to the client and saying, hey, here's what I have found based on the documents that you provided, the data that you have, or that I was able to find. I did this research, and here's how I'm going to get you to that goal. It really takes out a lot of the guesswork, and then we can just hit the ground running from there, and we already know exactly.
We'll just go ahead and invite
Oh,
Ellie back. I'm not sure what happened. We can fill in from there, Jimmy, but we'll bring her back on,
there's
let
our
her
cameraman.
hang out for a minute.
We'll just blame it on that
We'll
one.
just, we'll blame it on who started the podcast. It definitely wasn't Ellie. It was some other guy. It's going to be his fault for sure. But that was amazing. We'll keep going in the meantime. The cool thing is, like I said, I worked with Ellie, so I've been able to see Ellie come in. When she first started working with us, she did exactly what she said. She said, listen, I'm going to come in. We need to look at some models. We need to look at where we're going. We're going to evaluate where we're at. Maybe that's her trying to join right now. Yep, we'll accept her into the call. And really, she did come in. She practices what she preaches. She came in, started generating leads, started generating new ways of getting leads, which was super cool. And just super impressed with how she came in. I'm trying to pull her back
No,
in.
and I want to see too, you know, when she finished telling her story, like how did people respond when, you know, she's like, this isn't going to work? Because a lot of people, they start their own business and they think they're just going to fly high and it's like they're going to save the world or going to be the best at their job.
Yeah,
But when you have someone like her who's a professional, when she has to say, sorry, this isn't going to work, how they respond.
yeah, yeah. No, that's very true. So let me pivot for just a second, Jimmy. Let's talk a little bit about. Did she make it back on? Ah, yes. What up, Ellie? Welcome back.
Thanks,
So much
guys.
is doing part two.
Part two. We went for a little experience. That's fine.
I love it. I love it. We stalled. It was perfect. Like that was great content. It was perfect. But okay, so this is really important for me because in the game of an agency. So those of you who don't know, this is Ellie. Ellie owns a marketing agency, and she's been doing it since she was basically 15. It's not polite to ask how old you are now, but let's just say she's been doing it for like 15 years. Let's assume she's 30. And so like Ellie's been in the marketing world for quite a while. As you know, Ellie, a marketing agency is prone to like get clients and lose clients. That's just kind of part of the game, right? For those of you who are watching who maybe are like, hey, cool, maybe I should hire a marketing agency. Like when you come in, just like give us some runway, right? Like we can't turn your business on a dime. We have to understand what's going on. We have to, like, as Ellie was saying, dive into the analytics, form a game plan. So know that you could be a couple months into somebody's like marketing team or doing their marketing before we start to see some results, right? Obviously, we want to get there fast, but sometimes it takes some time. Certainly, there's times you felt like giving up during that time, right? Like, was there ever a time where you're like, this is a thing that's going to break me. I'm giving up right now. And how did you like push past that?
There was a time before I really understood how to set processes in place and automate as much as I could, that clients were leaving left and right because so much of the work was manual. And me and the team were like, we can't possibly service all these clients.
Yeah.
But once I was able to get those in place and automate things and make it so things could run in the background and not be reliant on somebody to do it for the system, that's when I really started to see different results and be able to take on a lot of clients and do everything that we promised. So that was the time that I was like, oh my gosh, I suck at this. This is terrible. Like, what am I doing? I would even wake up some mornings and have full on panic attacks and be like, this is not right for me. But yeah, I figured it out, pushed through it, and I'm so glad that I did, or I would have given up on so much.
Yeah, so that's really key for marketing, as well as really any business that you're looking to grow, right? Like automate as much as you can, right? Like get the repetitive tasks off your plate. Systems and processes, guys. Like you will not be able to scale a business unless you put systems and processes in.
Yeah.
I'm actually in the weeds right now of like, because we have different people that do the same job but do it differently, and it's creating a little bit of havoc. So we're going in and creating systems and processes so we can scale appropriately, right? Now, with marketing in particular, things are always changing, right, Ellie? Like it's ever-changing landscape. There's different social media networks. There's, email is king, and then social is king, and then direct mail is king, and then commercials, and then like whatever, right? It's always changing to get attention. How do you find a way to stay like ahead of the curve, or at least on trend with what's happening? Like what are resources you tap into? How do you stay current and relevant?
I really geek out about marketing and growing businesses. I read a ton of stuff. I have mentors in the field that I really look up to, I can turn to for advice. It's just going out and testing it yourself too. Lots of research. So it's tapping into your community that you have and then just researching and geeking out on your own.
Yeah. I agree. Like you have got to be tuned into your industry, right? Like Jimmy, I'm sure that Jimmy goes to like therapy conferences.
Yeah.
Jimmy actually was at one last week.
I was there last week.
Jimmy had the audacity to pull off this podcast from California. It was very bold maneuver. What besides geeking out on things, are there specific like books or podcasts or things that Ellie, are like, you guys, if you're going to get into marketing, you should tune into this thing? And before you answer that, we have a handful of people on. Guys, we're going to hit a Q&A session with Ellie in just a few minutes. And if you have a question for Ellie, anything in the marketing realm, whether you want to start some marketing, or maybe, I forget that it does that. It's so exciting. Whether you want to start your own marketing agency, whether you want to start to build some connections, whether you are saying, hey, I'm stuck in this particular spot in my business, how would you, from a marketing perspective, get out of this? Like, make sure you start dropping those below, and we'll, leave a little bit of time for Ellie to get to that. But Ellie, what books or tools or mentors? How do you find a mentor? Like, let's assume you can't afford to pay one. How do you recommend finding one?
You'd be surprised actually how many people that are further than you are in their journey are willing to, if you just send them a message or go up to them at a conference and say, hey, I want to learn what it is that you do. Would you be willing for me to shadow you for a bit, or do you have any advice? They're so gracious and willing to help. So I've never really experienced anyone that's like, no, absolutely not. Everybody has always been really receptive and said, yes, of course, I'll teach you how I got here. I'll let you shadow me on this day. We can connect with the same friends or go to the same conference. And so people are really open to that.
That's actually one thing I've noticed about the marketing community. Most of the time, they're not gatekeepers, right? Like most of the time, they will share information with you. It is a community that seems to be like, hey, we're all gonna like, what's that saying about the ships and the tide rising together, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Like everybody wants to grow and get better together, right? And certainly there are always some people who are like, I'm not telling you, but like I think by and large, you're right, Ellie. If you just like direct message somebody, be like, I love your content, I love this thing you're doing, like, and just like start to form a relationship, they're usually pretty open about sharing, which is really kind of cool.
Well, it shows how confident you have to be in yourself to do that too.
Yeah, for sure.
Because
right?
a lot of people out there will be like, I don't want to say my secret or my secret weapon. In reality, you're doing the same thing, but you have to have like you're being a mentor, and yet you have to have your confidence yourself to share others what you know, but yet still grow your own business.
Yep. And I would love to thank Jen Ketterman for putting me in my place. Rising tides raise all boats. That's what I was looking for. Thank you, Jen. Thank you. Appreciate it. Ellie, like marketing is such a fickle beast, right? Like there are so many things. And when people use the term marketing like super broad, right? Like, and it is what it is. I don't know that we'll ever get away from that. But as you think about your marketing career, what is one thing that you wish you would have known before you got started?
I think it would be, which is one of the keys to my success actually. But it's really researching who the audiences are of that specific company. And oftentimes you'll find that there's more than one. Like companies will come to me and say, my core audience is moms that are 40 years old and that's it. And I'll go and do the research and find actually there's males in there, or there's people that are younger, and you're just marketing to one facet. And so you're missing out on a lot of money and a lot of these different people. And so once I pull those levers, it's like open the floodgates. So I wish that I had known that really early on. I kind of stumbled upon it just testing and hoping that something would work out really well. And then I realized, wait, this can be replicated on every single business that there is.
Yeah. And I think you're absolutely right. Like I've actually said publicly, and I'll say it again, like, I think that the biggest secret to being like a really good marketer is understanding the analytics and the data, right? Because like you omitted a massive portion of people that you could have been talking to. And like how many tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars did you lose because you incorrectly pigeonholed yourself into like females 40 to 45? And you're like, actually, right, there's a whole other group of people or multiples you could have been talking to. So that's really, really smart, right? Like, don't assume that you know what the audience is. Like test and try until you like are verified you got the right audience.
So Ellie, I was going to say with that, when you bring that information back to people, how many of them accept that? And then, because like how many accept the change, and how many people are like, well, thanks for your feedback, but I kind of know my audience. I'm going to go from here.
Oh, man. Almost every single client that I come back to and I'm like, actually, we're going to veer this way, are like, no, we're not. But then I pull up my data spreadsheets and I'm like, yes, we are. Here's the numbers. It's really hard to argue with hard data when you're looking at it. So oftentimes they'll be like, oh, wow, that's incredible. Yes, we'll make this change and we'll go forward. Or I'll say, hey, I did this for this big company and I made them $1 million in a day. So if that's what you want, this is the way that we're going. And it's pretty rare that they'll say no to hard data and some case studies.
That's people are crazy. It's funny, like some of the people that run their companies, we love you all, right? Like if you run a company, good on you. But like be open to like learning new things, right? Be open that somebody can come in and help influence your business. That's what people are trying to do. We do have a question from Jen Ketterman that I will get into in just a minute. Just a couple other questions that I have for Ellie before we hit that spot. Ellie, like people, this is one of my favorite, well, I have two favorite questions. I'm about to ask one of them. When you talk about marketing, right? People always think it's a super lucrative career, right? Like they're like, cool, you can make 6 figures plus doing marketing, right? And that is certainly true. From your experience, give me kind of a range that people can settle into, right? Like for starters, like if you have, let's say a 9 to 5, let's say you're a W-2 and you don't own your own business.
Yeah.
Like what's kind of a traditional entry level position to, let's say, a CMO, right? Like if you're inside of an organization.
I think starting out in marketing, you can expect to be probably between 60 and 65,000. And then once you're getting up there a little bit in the ranks, you're hitting manager, you're hitting director, that's when you can expect to be at 100,000. And then once you're CMO, you can expect to be making 200, 250,000 or above from there.
Yeah, and I've even seen positions recently where even like junior level marketing people right out of school sometimes, like, don't be surprised if you get an offer like 45 or 50,000, right?
Yeah.
I think we're at a time right now where employers are still like, let me see what I can get for 45 or 50, right? But I would say you're probably right, at least somewhere between 40 and 60 for an entry level is probably what you're looking for. Now let's assume that like you have a profitable marketing agency, right? And you're like, cool, I'm actually going to break out on my own.
Yeah.
What can you kind of anticipate making when you kind of hit that realm?
Well, once you're owning your own business and you're profitable, that's the key.
Yeah, once you're not like paying, once you're in the black.
Yeah, you can expect to be anywhere from 500,000 to $1 million and more a year. But I want to have a caveat there because it's kind of similar as entry level. You're just hitting the floor. You just graduated college. You're starting marketing. There were a year or more where I lived off savings.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there will be years where you don't make anything or you're reinvesting everything back into the business or you're paying employees or trying to make payroll. So it's not like just out the gate, you're going to make this much money. There's a lot of struggle on the way up and you have to be willing to feel that kind of financial pain and be okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely get prepped and ready, right? Like when you're going to start your agency, there will be some lean times.
Mm-hmm.
It ebbs and flows with clients, right? Like, Ellie, because of the ebb and flow, like what actually inspired you to say, I'm out of the W-2, like I'm out of working for somebody else, I'm going to start my own thing. Like what inspired you to pursue your own marketing agency?
I think it was really the mentors that I had at that point in time. I really was lucky to come across even more incredible people at the job that I held before this. And they really taught me so much and made me think like, wait a minute, I actually could do this too. I've learned the ins and outs, everything that there is to know about agency financials, getting clients, managing clients, doing marketing, all those types of things. But they gave me that kind of confidence boost that was like, you're capable of doing this as well. And I still stay really heavily connected with them and owe them a lot too. So I just have gotten really lucky, I think.
Really cool. Well, and I believe there's a certain element of like, you say lucky, but I do believe that when you put out good juju into the world, I do believe that comes back to you, right? Like you will
100%.
find the right connections, you will find the right opportunities, and those people will be drawn to you, right? Like people who are naturally givers, and even if you're not a natural giver, but you desire to give value to people, there will be something that you'll draw people to you, which is really cool. That's actually part of the reason I was drawn to Jimmy. Jimmy's just a natural giver. He gives and gives and gives. Matter of fact, when I first moved into the hood, Jimmy like did a pancake breakfast like once a year, right? And had all the neighborhood over and like had pancakes and like just always giving back to the community, which really drew me in. And then actually Jen, who is actually again another entrepreneur a couple doors down from me, and we'll answer her question in a minute. I told her the other day I think she's going to be sainted. Like I don't know how that process happens. But
I know,
like she's
Jen,
just
you're
a natural
right.
giver, and she just brings light and energy and love, and she's just an incredible person. And so I think as you do that, you find the right mentors, you find the right opportunities to grow your career, right? Which is really, really cool. I'm going to end on this, and Jimmy, you might have other questions. Ellie, I love to know, like, because inside the industry, like any industry, there's like some dirty, like seedy underbelly things that happen, right? Like we had a chiropractor on last week that he's like, yeah, people don't tell you that you're going to get a lot of farts happening inside of like your office, right? Because you adjust something and they like fart, like, which was hilarious. So I'm like, what is the thing, Ellie, that you're like, people be surprised to know this happens in marketing?
I think people would be really surprised at how many, I guess, normal people own incredibly successful businesses.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times you're like, oh, every business owner is like wildly intelligent, and they are, but like wildly intelligent and just amazing and all these other things, and it could literally be your neighbor next door that has a multi-billion-dollar business and just had that grit to keep going, keep holding on, keep making losses financially and saying, nope, I'm still going to keep going. So that's something that really shocked me, actually, was interacting with all these business owners and realizing, wait, that's like Linda up the street. So, I mean, really, anyone can do it if you're driven enough and are willing to go through kind of the pain to get to the other side.
It's like the millionaire next door, right? Like, you would never know that Jimmy is like a multimillionaire. Like, he is that good. But like, right? Like,
I do drive a Hyundai.
No, I love it. But I would actually, I would agree with you. And I would actually say on the other side of things, it's always intriguing to me how, and one thing that like a secret that I kind of hold sometimes is like a lot of people have no idea what they're doing, right? Like you get into their business and you're like, how are you even operating, right? So like for me, the dirty little secret is like, trust in yourself, because the analytics, the education, everything you have, I promise you, qualifies you to do the thing you're about to do, right? Like you can go in, you can make a difference, you can like own your truth, and you will be successful, because a lot of these people, a lot of small businesses like trip their way into like success, right? Like it's really intriguing. So be confident in what you're doing. I think it's really, really cool. Okay, so I'm Jimmy, do you have any other questions for Ellie? Because Ellie, I would love for you to answer this question from Jen. She has a really cool question I'd love to drop on you. Did you have any other questions for Ellie about marketing, about owning a marketing agency, about why in the world TikTok's still a thing? I don't know.
So I'm going to ask a question. One thing I was funny about, doing the hard work, is also amazing how many people set up an LLC, get their business registered, and then they do absolutely nothing. They put a couple Google ads out there and a couple flyers, and then they just give up. So it goes back just to the hard work with everything. My really question is that's a hard question, is when you start in the $500,000 $1 million range, who pays for dinner?
As far as like clients or family and
No,
friends?
it's like, say you get a bunch of the entrepreneurs, you're all making good money. Who pays for dinner?
If you're the agency, you're
All
paying.
right.
Even for like Fabletics, who's billions of dollars, you're paying. That's just the rule.
Hard-hitting question right there.
You can always play credit card roulette. Everybody put your credit card on the table, wherever they choose. Like, that's the end of it, right?
It's the frequent flyer mile. Just like, all right, who's going to get the mileage this week?
Got it. I would like to give a shout out. I apologize, I've been drinking this. I would like to give an unofficial shout out to Walmart and their 78-cent water that I drink all the time. So Walmart, if you want to sponsor a podcast with 31 people, we'd love to have you as a sponsor. It's beautiful. Ellie, let me drop this on you. So this is from Jen. Jen says, how can I market my health and wellness business and get leads when starting out? So relatively new business from Jen, but health and wellness, how does she start to get leads?
So the key that I've found with health and wellness, working with a lot of different companies that sell supplements, or the athlete themselves is the product, is really being authentic, because there's so many brands out there that are like, this will solve everything and just take this pill, it's going to be magical and amazing for you. And so people start off really not trusting the industry itself. So if you can show a lot of trust and like, I'm a normal person talking to you directly as a consumer, and here's the product and here's why I made it, that really makes all the difference. And also having somebody that they can connect with. So you as the entrepreneur, I would tell your story. I would say, here's how I get fit, or how I lose weight, or how I make sure I'm maintaining proper health, and here's the journey that I'm on. And just talking about you, that really makes all the difference in the world, versus saying like, here's this pill, you should get it, it's FDA approved, it's organic. Nobody really cares about that. They care more about you as a business owner.
Yeah, that's really great. And I think more than ever, what people are looking for is social proof, right? Like they want to know. Like I happen to know Jen really well. I know that Jen is putting in the grind. She is posting all the time. Jen actually can build funnels. Like she's got it all, right? And I feel like sometimes as an entrepreneur, where you're like you're just like one step away, right? Like I go back to that analogy and or the very real story inside of Think and Grow Rich, where the guy is the gold miner and he's following that vein of gold and it dries up. But what has happened? It just shifted like 3 feet, right? And it's like, I feel like so many entrepreneurs are on the vein and it shifts slightly on them. And for whatever reason, they can't find it. They panic and they give up, right? But I think in that very moment, I hate to say this, but I do believe the universe is testing you. And the universe is like, how bad do you want this? And like, you got to find that next 3 feet to be like, there's my gold vein, I'm back, right? And I feel like that's the way with marketing. It's like you have to keep posting. You have to try some new messaging. You have to like try something different in a funnel. You've got to like try a different audience, right? Like Jen, like sister, you may be thinking that you're tapped into the audience you want. That might not be the right audience, right? Or there may be more people in the wings waiting to hear about what you got, right? And it's like you have to go find that vein of gold. And like, for the love, do not give up, right? Like, you're so close. And that's like my message to all the entrepreneurs is like, you are right there. Just keep going, right? And I've seen it time and time again. Oh my gosh. So close, Jen. You're so close. We love you. I know you're close. I know it.
Yep. Keep going, Jen.
Yeah. That's really, really good. Ellie, there's going to be people who are going to want to talk more to you because you are a genius. And it is hard to talk about marketing when you're not diving into specifics on people's businesses. Tell me, how can people find you? How can they reach out? How can they connect with you? If they've got a small business that they want to do some marketing with, if they want to connect with you like to have you as a mentor, how can they get in contact with you?
Really, the easiest way is probably just go on Instagram. It's Ellie_Coates and send me a message there and we can just talk. Or you can always email me, Ellie@elliecoates.com.
And that is COATES.
Yep.
So those of you that are following along.
Are we able to put that in the comments section?
You put that in the comments section, Jimmy. I'll put it in the comments section.
I can't.
You can't? What? All right.
I'm on the diagonal.
Let's see. How do I spell? Contact.
I just want to see that face of yours. That's all.
No, you don't. This is my stupid face. Contact Ellie at Ellie. What was your email address, Ellie?
It's Ellie@elliecoates.com. Super simple.
Well, thanks, Jen. That's why Jen's a saint. She has it all taken care of.
See, I told you, freaking Jen, every time. Okay, cool. And like, thank you so much, Ellie, for being with us. Any like parting words of advice, parting words of wisdom, nuggets of like information you want to leave with the peeps? And then Jimmy, we always end our podcast because Jimmy is instrumental to our mental health and what we're doing. We always give Jimmy a mental health moment here at the end. But Ellie, like, drop your final gold nugget on our audience.
I think it's just keep going, even if you aren't achieving what you set out for, or you're like, this isn't working, or I'm not capable. Keep going. It's worth it in the end. There's so many times that I was knocked down and was like, no, I'm going to get back up. I'm going to keep going. It's almost delusion, honestly. Be delusional a little bit that you're like, no, I deserve this. I'm going to get it. But also build that community. That's what made all the difference for me, was having those mentors, having bosses that were really great friends, having coworkers that were great friends, that then later on were instrumental to my success. So it's be a good person and make those connections and you'll get where you need to be going.
I love it. As they say, your network is your net worth, right? So like, hang out with really cool people, learn really cool lessons. And really, Ellie, like you said at the beginning, it just resonates so much with me. Like, there is nothing that you guys can do in your business that can't be undone, right? Like, everything is fixable. Everything is a lesson. You are never down and out. It can always be course corrected. So thank you, Ellie, so much for being with us for the last little bit. I think I promised you like 30 or 40 minutes, and we went way past that. Thank you for dropping knowledge on us. Thank you for being with us. Thank you to your tech team for not only like showing us his beautiful face, but then getting you back on when we dropped you. We absolutely loved having you, Ellie. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much. Bye,
Thanks.
guys.
Bye.
Ellie.
All right, Jimmy, let me turn it over to you for our mental health moment.
Yeah, so mental health moments, kind of like we were talking about yesterday, different mental health moments, and you brought up a good one with, with the days getting a lot shorter, getting dark a lot earlier. We see a lot of seasonal depression. And some tips to kind of help with that is on Amazon, you can get a natural light bar. 20, 30 minutes a day, just sit underneath that bar. If you can't afford one of those or can't get one, just sit by a window. If you want to read a book, watch some TV, just have that natural light come in. Also, get out and go for a walk. Whether it's a cloudy or not, you're still getting those rays. One of the most important things to do is just have a routine. So sleep, sleep, get up, do your routine every single day. Because a lot of times seasonal depression, we just want to stay inside, we want to sleep, we just want to curl up because it's cold. Just keep that routine, exercise, and then lastly, get a good group of friends that you, or a good social support that you can hang out with.
Yep. Guys, make sure you reach out to your friends. We are, especially in Utah, entering a tricky time where everybody's got shoulder days, but we get inversion, we get all sorts of weird things. Check on your friends, be good people, love them, they love you, make it happen. Or Lonnie says move to Florida. Either way, like you have options. Thank you, Lonnie. We love having you on. Guys, thank you so much for being with us on the Open Source Entrepreneur. We are going to take a small break next week because Jimmy and I are doing some traveling, and our time zones will be way off because I'm going to be over in Europe. Humble brag, right? But like we're going to be way off, so we won't be with you next week. But thank you so much for being with us, Ellie. Thank you for dropping knowledge.
Thanks,
Jimmy,
Ellie.
thank you as always for giving us a mental health moment sponsored by Desert Counseling. Guys, if you have any questions, light us up. If there's guests you'd love to see on the pod, please make sure you drop that on our page, and we're happy to bring on whomever we can. But thank you guys. Be safe. We love you. Take care.
Guys, see ya.